there. In today's video, we are talking about grant writing for artists. Now, realistically, the tips that we're sharing, they're good for everybody. So if you're not an artist, don't tune out. You're probably gonna find a lot of value, but this one is targeted at them. So first thing we're gonna go into are basically the 4 main tips that we have for you as an artist, and we'll round it out with feedback that we got from one of our students in our program that's a professional artist, and she had some great tips that we wanted to share with you as well. That's it. I'm Meredith Noble, the founder of LearnGrantWriting.org, where we teach people like you how to become grant writing unicorns. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so step 1 is defining a project prospectus. And what do I mean by this? It's important when you're in the early nascent stages of your project, well, any stage really, to have a 1-page overview on what the project is, the problem that it solves, who you serve, what it's going to cost, right, and how you're going to do it, and then most importantly, why it matters. So you can package all that information onto 1 page, and then when you're doing outreach to a funder and you're trying to gauge interest, see if you're a good fit, or even just build partnership support or ask for a sponsorship, right? Like having 1 page that says, this idea is out of my brain, it's on paper, and here it is in a very clear and concise way. Lots of people don't do this. So you're gonna already stand out and above and beyond the rest. So start with a clear 1-page project prospectus. Just going through the activity of putting this together will help you dial in your idea and be much more articulate about it. We recommend using Canva, unless you're a graphic designer and you can use any of the Adobe Suites products, but basically Canva's pretty nice for making really simple, beautiful graphics to have just a nice presentable document. Okay, tip number 2 is that we want you to be thinking about your project, well, what you want to get funded, in terms of a project, not a program. So the difference here is a little bit nuanced. A project has a clear beginning, middle, and an end. So when you're at the end, it's clear what success is, like what's that final deliverable. A program is an ongoing activity, right? So it's ongoing, like usually operations or something that's happening within your organization, and that's important to get funded too, but even then you want to find a way to think of it as a project so that the funder feels like their investment, like it's clear when they've had their impact, right? And you can really point to the successes by having them involved. So think about what you're trying to get funded as a project, and don't let it drag on too long, right? So they want to know that they're going to get involved and it's going to happen. So typically, 12 to 18 months at the longest, right? Something that's really manageable and you can be pretty confident that what you say you're going to do is how it's going to pan out. Hope you find that helpful. Big nuance, but makes a big difference when you're packaging your project. Okay, number 3 might be the most important. Why does it matter? Why is what you want to do important? How is it helping your community? How is it changing the way people think or solving a big societal problem, right? You want to be really, really clear on why the work matters. So we have a student in our program, Alyssa London. She's the founder of Culture Story, and they help people, basically they help celebrate our identity and really understand the stories behind our culture and really recognize that, it's particularly indigenous culture, and recognize that it's not the stereotypes that people think it is, that it's really present in everyday culture, and finding a way to really preserve and celebrate that. And when she put together her first prospectus and her first grant application, it had a lot of the how, right? Like lots of specifics on the distribution, lots of specifics on just good details, no doubt about it, but it lacked the why. Why does it matter that a child sees themselves in media, right? And then feels that they can grow up and have that too, right? Like there's such bigger messaging behind what she was doing, but it wasn't captured. So when we had to rework it and really put in the why, guess what? The funders, the board of that foundation, they added notes when she was awarded the funding saying, thank you for doing this important work. I had no idea how important this was, right? Like they felt the why, the heartstrings got to them because she articulated the why, not the how and what. Does that make sense? Really important to get to that bigger picture where you're stepping out of yourself and your methodology and seeing beyond why this matters to you, but why it matters in a bigger way, right? Okay. Step number 4, or tip number 4, is be intentional. I know it's really tempting to just shotgun it oh my gosh, this grant looks perfect, I'm just gonna like stay up for 3 nights straight and do it. Don't do that. It's such a waste of time. Plus those tend to be the most competitive grants, right? I have made this mistake before on grants for artists, right? So I've learned this lesson the hard way, but when you're intentional, when you step back and think, okay, this is what we want to get funded, and let's go find the right 2 to 5 grants to pursue over the next 12 to 18 months. And you just focus on those, and you don't get sidetracked by the, I don't know, shiny bright object syndrome, right? You're going to be so much more successful. Your win rate's going to go way up, and it's worth your time, so you can otherwise be back doing what you love, which is the art, right? So be intentional, put together a funding strategy. If you want more info on that, I'll link some videos below, but that's just a whole nother topic unto itself. Now, before I wrap this up, I did want to share some tips that Tsēmā shared with us. She was a student that came through our program. In fact, 2 people from her organization have, but she's an amazing artist. We have a story on her in our success stories page, so be sure to go check it out. But what I loved about her interview is she had some really good advice specific for artists, and I wanted to share that here. Okay, her first tip was don't write so much, right? Don't write so much. I think we don't sound smart if it's not long and it's not academic or whatever. You want to be having sentences that are 15 words or less per sentence. So it reads more like a newspaper, like it's quick and it's story-like and it's easy to comprehend. So if your reviewer is skimming, which is a possibility because they often review thousands of grants, it's easy to understand. You're not making them work for it or have to be strained. Make it easy, don't write so much. Tip number 2 was if you can read this, 1 project at a time. So she did 4 grants in the time that she was in our program, grant writing from start to funded. 3 of the 4 were funded. And the last one wasn't because they had at that last minute tried to kind of sneak in another project and do them both. And the funder was like, no, 1 project that was too much. We think we would have funded you if you hadn't had that other thing because it just kind of muddied everything up. 1 project at a time. Okay, and then the 3rd tip, which ties into this as well, was use clear language. So she was saying, don't use the language you learn in art school. And the same goes for anyone that's a researcher in an academic field or technical. Don't use that language. Be really, really clear, right? So I think where she learned a lot of this is that she actually was a grant reviewer for the Canada Council of the Arts. And so she saw hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 applications. So you really dial in on what you like and don't like when you're going through that many proposals. So if you have the chance to be able to be a reviewer for some grants in your domain that wouldn't be a conflict of interest that would bar you from applying, but maybe in another area, totally consider it. So that's kind of the one-on-one on tips for grant writing for artists. Hope that you found that useful. We're going to be linking a bunch of other resources in the description box below to keep you going. But if you have questions, drop them in the comments, hit the like and subscribe. We drop a video about once a week and just keep this learning train going. That's it. I'll catch you next time. Bye.